ये सभी प्रोजेक्ट्स, नए डिफेंस कॉम्प्लेक्स, देश के तमाम बड़े इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर प्रोजेक्ट्स, ये देश के पेश का सबूत तो है ही, ये भारत के वैश्विक विजन का प्रतिबिंब भी है। हम दुनिया को जो विजन दे रहे हैं, भारत खुद उन्हें किस तरह अंगीकार कर रहा है, ये हमारे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलपमेंट में दिखाई दे रहा है। हमने दुनिया को मिशन लाइफ दिया, हमने वन अर्थ, वन सन, वन ग्रिड का आइडिया विश्व के सामने रखा। ये वो विजन है जिनसे मानवता के भविष्य की उम्मीद जुड़ी है। आज आप देख सकते हैं, कर्तव्य भवन जैसे हमारे आधुनिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, ये ऐसे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर हैं जिनकी आत्मा प्रो पीपल है और इनका स्ट्रक्चर प्रो प्लेनेट है। कर्तव्य भवन में भी रूफटॉप पर सोलर पैनल्स लगाए गए हैं। वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट के लिए एडवांस सिस्टम को इसमें इंटीग्रेट किया गया है। ग्रीन बिल्डिंग्स का विजन अब भारत में विस्तार ले रहा है। साथियों, हमारी सरकार एक होलिस्टिक विजन के साथ भारत के नवनिर्माण में जुटी है।
Narendra Modi there inaugurating that high-tech Kartavya Bhavan that is going to house the Common Central Secretariat. It's going to be the new house of several ministries. In fact, the ministries of New Delhi have a new address, Veera, and the Prime Minister there inaugurating that very important high-tech, high-profile Kartavya Bhavan, saying that this is going to help India achieve that vision of Viksit Bharat.
That's right, Vasudha. We'll keep a close watch of that space, which you will be reporting from very closely in the days to come. But to the other big political face-off in the national capital that played out, Telangana Chief Minister Revanth Reddy, backed by the Congress-led NDTV bloc, staged a protest at Jantar Mantar demanding the President's assent to two key state bills that raise backward caste reservations from 27% to 42%. These bills, passed in March, also aim to bypass the 50% cap on quotas. Vasudha, you were there at the protest site earlier in the day and spoke to Revanth Reddy.
That's right, Veera. I was at the protest site. In fact, I spoke to the Chief Minister and also the Deputy Chief Minister, Vikramarka Bhatti, with local body polls due by September 30th. Time is running out. The BJP is opposing the move, alleging that the Congress party is sneakily including Muslim reservation within the BC quota. Revanth Reddy, in fact, said that he will take the battle from Sadak to Sansad, meaning street to the parliament. Listen in to what he said and also what the Deputy Chief Minister said before we get in our guests.
Sir, this massive protest on OBC, the ordinance issue and the bills, what is your intent? What do you want the centre to do?
So we wanted to tell that we are waiting for education employment reservation 42% OBCs and political reservation in local bodies 42%. Two bills are pending with President of India. We have waited long more 4 months, but they have not accepted. Now we are demanding, Parliament is going on, सड़क से लेकर संसद तक हम तो लड़ाई जारी है. So we are fighting from road to Parliament. So our demand is that they have to clear those bills. Education employment reservation 42% and political reservation in local bodies 42%. Till now they have not cleared, and also we have asked appointment of Rashtrapati. Till now we have not got any appointment. I think 2 days back Narendra Modi ji and Amit Shah ji, they have met Rashtrapati ji. I think they are pressurizing Rashtrapati ji to not to give appointment to Telangana people. Now we are here, entire cabinet, parliament members, MLCs and MLAs, most of the rural nook and corner OBCs are here. We are pro-OBC. Rahul Gandhi is pro-OBC. Narendra Modi is anti-OBC. This is the fight between pro-OBC and anti-OBC. So we will see how to get this reservation. If Modi is going to accept it, is fine. Otherwise, we will defeat him coming election, and we will make Rahul Gandhi as a Prime Minister. We will get that 42% reservation in all over India.
Mr. Reddy, BJP is saying that this is a conspiracy for vote appeasement because you're giving only 5% for OBC and 10% for Muslims. They are saying this. What is that?
I'm challenging whoever is the Minister of Bharatiya Janata Party.
Bandi Sanjay has said.
Bandi Sanjay or Kishan Reddy, they are illiterates, I can say. Why? Because ask them to go through my bills. Governor has accepted our bills. If there is anything for reservation separate for Muslims or any other thing, it is just impossible to accept Governor of Telangana. So it is approved by the Governor of Telangana. How come they are making allegations against Government of Telangana? So it's a political stunt. So it is not going to save Bharatiya Janata Party, this political stunt.
If they don't listen your demands, sir, because
yeah, that is one formula. My point is that why that formula? Why don't you amend our act? Already you have amended for EWS. Why can't for OBCs? We are not taking any others reservation. So we are their legitimate right. We wanted to give their legitimate right. So Rahul Gandhi is trying to get a legitimate right of OBCs. Modi is refused to give that legitimate right to OBCs. That's all.
So what is the intent of OBC?
Sir, by hook or crook, we wanted to get a 42% reservation for OBC. Okay.
But what is the intent of this protest? Because you've also passed an ordinance, but you're saying that everything is being stalled by the centre. Can you explain to us what kind of legal measures you're taking to implement OBC reservation?
There are two issues. I think unnecessarily people are getting confused. One is ordinance, the other one is the bill. Bill we have already passed for the 42% reservation for the OBCs in the local body selections and also for the education and employment, which we have passed based on the survey statistics. We placed in the House and House unanimously approved it and we passed a bill. And that bill we have sent it to Governor and Governor in turn sent to the Rashtrapati to include in the 9th schedule for the reservations to be implemented in Telangana. The other ordinance is something else. Once this gets cleared, the previous government, PRS government, brought an act in the Panchayat Raj keeping the cap of 50% reservation. To remove that ordinance is something different. That we have given because we have a trust and confidence that we will get it cleared from the Rashtrapati and the Parliament and the Government of India. The moment it comes, it has to be ready. So for that we have removed that cap. So the cap is something different, the ordinance.
Sir, BJP is questioning no BC chief minister even in United Andhra Pradesh for so many years. They are saying that Congress has not given a BC chief minister for a long time, but Prime Minister is OBC.
So for the Congress party, the entire country is one unit. Congress party has given a number of leaders as the chief ministers in so many states. In the other day, or in Rajasthan, Gehlot Sahab was there. Now in Karnataka, the chief minister is a backward class. See, how can they say that? They can't say that. The Congress party believes in social justice. All the time it's trying to give the importance to the people who represents more in number. And the BJP, what they are trying to misguide the people, saying that some of the Muslims are getting the reservations, the backward classes on the name of backward caste. This is also there in the Gujarat. This is also there in Rajasthan. This is also there in Madhya Pradesh. This is there all over the country. Why are they talking about Telangana? It is nothing to do with that caste, the religion.
Call it social justice or just political optics, Veera. This is something that is going to design the way political debates, at least in certain states, are going to look like. Ram Mohan Reddy of the Congress Party and Rachna Reddy of the BJP are joining us now. Rachna Reddy, you heard what Revanth Reddy had to say. What is wrong in just meeting the Chief Minister? Because this is about OBC reservation. OBC was supposed to be, was being seen as the BJP's bastion, but with the caste survey and now with this move of OBC reservation, clearly the Congress is making a huge pitch.
Good evening, everyone. There is no question or no reason not to meet the Chief Minister. Here, if you may see, here the bill for 42%. Firstly, the 42% itself is questionable in the sense this 42% alleged OBC reservation also includes an unconstitutional 10% enhancement of Muslim reservation. Here, when the Muslim reservation was put in place already for at 4% itself, that is question that has been questioned, and the same is pending in the Supreme Court. Now, unconstitutionally, while the same unconstitutional religious-based reservation is pending, they enhance it to 10% and include the 10% in the 42%. Now, how did they come to the 42%? They claim by an empirical survey. What is an empirical survey? I mean, I've been in academia as well. In academia, an empirical survey speaks about a sample data of very small quantities that is attributed to the rest of the allegedly similarly placed people. But you are talking about policy formulation here. How can you indulge in an empirical data that nobody knows about? No survey was done. Nobody came to our homes.
Important point that you're raising there, Rachna Reddy. Answer to that, Ram Mohan Reddy. The accusation is that in the name of OBC, you are trying to bring in religious quota as well, and then on the basis of insufficient data, you are assuming that you have enough empirical evidence.
It could be more also.
Good evening, Veera and Vasudha. Clarification number one. We are not seeking the increase of reservation for OBCs on caste or religion basis. We are seeking the increase of reservation to 42% on backwardness, on educational and social. Okay, there is no religion here. Had there been an observation in the bills passed in our Legislative Assembly in March 2025, which was forwarded to the Honorable Governor of the state, they might have found out the observations. They would have sent it back. There are no such things. I don't know from which page they have drawn these, statements and trying to portray it on every available platform and distract the, public's attention.
Okay, Mr. Reddy, my question to you, sir. My question to you.
Rachna Reddy should also give a clarification.
Right, Mr. Reddy, this 50% ceiling has been set by the court. I remember even BJP ruled states like Chhattisgarh in the past have surpassed that thing. They've tried to do it, but it's the High Court which stopped them. It's the Supreme Court that stopped them. Are you trying to pin the blame of what judiciary did on the BJP?
When the central government has found a way to increase the reservation cap, break the reservation cap of 50 by giving 10% reservation to the EWS, then 100% there will be a probability for the central government if they choose to give. Because we are fighting for the legitimate right for the BCs. And in Tamil Nadu, there is 69% reservation covering 89% of population. So 89%.
But there is a long constitutional history to that, Ram Mohan Reddy. Rachna Reddy, respond to this, the points made by Ram Mohan Reddy here.
Here itself, there has to be a clarification. BJP never broke any ceiling as far as EWS is concerned. EWS, pursuant to a constitutional amendment, is the additional 10% above 100%. Here, the Congress is illegally, without any empirical data, trying to break the 50% ceiling. Here, Veera, here the constitutional reservation. There is a difference between constitutional reservation and a statutory reservation, and I'll tell you why.
Points understood. Did the center also go in for the caste census after there was too much pressure created by the opposition or caste census?
No,
so this
absolutely
is clearly
not.
a fallout of that, isn't it?
No, absolutely not. Caste census was not or has never been an integral part of census per se. But when the opposition wanted it, we were ready and willing to conduct the caste census also along with the rest of the comprehensive census. And once, not just the Supreme Court, the Constitution also holds that constitutional reservation is only as far as STs and STs, and that political reservations for local body elections cannot be attributed to education
quickly.
and health.
Yeah, Mr. Reddy, quickly, just 10 seconds.
20 seconds.
Rachna Reddy giving the clarification that, they are not with the OBCs. Are they with the OBCs or not? Are they inclined towards the benefit and the empowerment of OBCs or not? If that is the case, then why are you playing the cards of caste census along
For
with
the
the
optics of it,
population
everyone is
census?
with the OBCs,
Why have you come
Vasudha.
up with the statements of
Absolutely,
caste census
Mr.
along with the
Reddy, and
population?
thank you, Rachna, for joining us. Veera, clearly, like I said, a lot of this is about political optics because everybody wants to be with the SC, ST, OBC population. Everybody also wants to be with the general caste population. But clearly, moving on to other debates now, we also have something from your city that's coming up.
That's right. Is Bengaluru's infrastructure woes caught in the state versus centre, Congress versus BJP exchange as well? In another political face-off, Vasudha, Deputy Chief Minister D.K. Shivkumar has called BJP Bengaluru South MP Tejasvi Surya, quote-unquote, a boy in a hurry for inviting the Prime Minister hurriedly to inaugurate the Bengaluru Yellow Line on the 10th of August.
Well, D.K. Shivakumar addressing reporters clarified that the 19.5-kilometer yellow line received its safety certification only on the 31st of July and that the Prime Minister has been invited to inaugurate it on the 10th of August. Now, the Yellow Line project has a deadline of 15th of August. This is a 7,000 crore project. So far, only 3 trains have arrived. One more is expected by the 10th. It will take 10 to 15 more days to become fully operational. That's what he said. And he also said, and I quote, our MP is still young, a boy, and he wanted operations to start urgently, and we can't rush things like that.
Well, the metro hasn't started as yet, but the rush for credit seems to be playing out. Let's just listen in to D.K. Shivkumar before we head to our special political face-off this evening.
ಇದು 19 ಕಿಲೋಮೀಟರ್ ರೋಡು 7,610 ಕೋಟಿ ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಈಗ ಖರ್ಚಾಗಿದೆ 31ನೇ ತಾರೀಕು ಸರ್ಟಿಫಿಕೇಟ್ ಬಂದಿದೆ ಪಾಪ ನಮ್ಮ MP ಇನ್ನ ಹುಡುಗ ಇನ್ನ ಅನುಭವ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅರ್ಜೆಂಟ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದ ನಾವು ಹಂಗೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ ಕಮಿಷನರ್ ಆಫ್ ಸರ್ಟಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ ಕೊಡಬೇಕಾದವರು 31ನೇ ತಾರೀಕು ಜುಲೈ ಸರ್ಟಿಫಿಕೇಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ನಾವು ಇವತ್ತು 4ನೇ ತಾರೀಕು 5ನೇ ತಾರೀಕಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವಿದ್ದೀವಿ Prime Minister 10ನೇ ತಾರೀಕು ಅವರು ಟೈಮ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
Well, this is an issue, Vasudha, that's been playing out very, very viciously, vigorously in Bengaluru. But of course, there are several other contentious projects from suburban railway systems to the peripheral ring road and grants from the centre. So have the two sides done enough for Bengaluru? And more importantly, is there more a quest for political credit than to get the work done? Joining us this evening, Raghu Doderi of the Congress and Ashok Gowda of the BJP. Ashok Gowda of the BJP, a boy in a hurry, says the Deputy Chief Minister about your Bengaluru South MP. How do you respond?
See, what D.K. Shivkumar should understand is the concern of Tejasvi Surya, wherein he is asking the question about what is happening with the different lines, whether it is a blue line, red line, and the proposed metro line for the phase 3. With all these things, he is also asking question about the tunnel road, the need for the tunnel road. He is also asking the question about 28,000 potholes which are not filled in Bengaluru city under D.K. Shivkumar's leadership. As well, he is asking the question about there are so many strategies which actually can be adopted for the city development where the citizens can be part of it. For example, the same metro line which is there wherein I stay also, there is a flyover which runs just below the metro line. These are all the strategies which could be adopted instead of the tunnel road. This is what Tejasvi Surya is asking. So instead of saying that an honorable MP is asking a question, he is saying that he is a kid, he does not know, and he is in a kid in a hurry. What are all this? What is the meaning of all this?
But
things?
sir, there are several. Sir, yellow line has been delayed. Sorry, Vasudha, to interrupt here, but the yellow line has been delayed. There is the suburban rail project. Raghu Doderi, is this becoming more about centre versus state, about wanting to take credit on both sides? Mr. D.K. Shivkumar also takes a ride before everybody else, before the Prime Minister comes on the yellow line. Rather than trying to sort the city.
Yeah, first of all, let me make it very, very clear that state government, we don't have any issue. At the end of the day, we worry for the country and Karnataka government, and Karnataka itself contributes more than 9.4% of the total GDP of the country. So it's a job engine and economic creator engine for the entire country.
Let's
so for
answer
this, central government contribution? I'm just questioning. What's the central government contribution? Why 6,000 crore was a special grant was given under the 15th Finance Commission was not given? And the second one, 26,000 crore we requested for the central government to provide for the outer ring road and the STRR project they have not given yet. And third one, we have requested for center of excellence for the niche skill and advanced skills. They have not given it. So it is purely a stepmother treatment were given by the central government. State government or Karnataka is paying more than 6.5 lakh crore for every year as a tax and cess. But whereas the central government is giving only 53,000 crore for every year. So which very clearly shows that central government is doing a stepmotherly treatment. So this is not just one. More than 10 projects, irrigation project and the power projects are not given approval by the central government.
Looking at Karnataka with a lot of bias just because it's not ruled by the BJP now.
Yes, absolutely. It is purely because of the political vendetta.
Mr. Gowda.
Let Ashok Gowda respond.
Yeah.
See, first thing is Revanth Reddy does not have the facts, because whatever the Karnataka government is sending to the center through the devolution of the taxes and to the grant in aid, as well as soft loans which are given for the 50 years, as well as DBT and the project specific funding, all are adding up to around 53 paisa out of 1 rupee to 58 paisa. This is the fact which we have checked and which we are going to speak about it in the coming days. Already the Prahalnath Joshi ji has spoken about it and with the clear statistics. That is point number one. Point number two. Yes, Karnataka is giving its due engine work for the entire country. That's who planned it? Who planned the Finance Commission 1 and who planned the Finance Commission 7? Who planned the Finance Commission 13? Wherein the categorizations was done that the people who are earning more will share with the people who are earning less. Who did it? Under whose regime it was? Finance Commission 1, Finance Commission 7.
No, but let's focus on the question of the suburban railway now for a moment. Vasudha, for instance, the suburban railway is a Karnataka and central project. Peripheral ring road is a project that needs to be done. How much? Can you just detail how much coordination is there between the center and state? And Raghu Doderi, there's no point shaking heads. I'll come to you as well. But Ashok Gowda, how much coordination has been there between center and state for infrastructure projects?
And Veera, most importantly, there are also players who have left the project, isn't it? The contracts have been given out and then they've left the project.
L&T has left the project on the suburban rail. Why?
Absolutely right. See what is happening in Karnataka. Last year, the capital investment in Karnataka state government was 33,000 crores, out of which contractors got only 18,000 crores. The rest of the amount was not given. I was just speaking to the contractor yesterday in the morning. And he was trying to say that, boss, I'm not trying to intend to take any kind of a contracts in Bangalore or in Karnataka because they are delaying the payments and they don't give the payment. And when this is the state of the matter, all the contractors are running away. And between the coordination, Veera, what you asked is absolutely right. CM Siddaramaiah or the other ministers go to the center and they say they meet as central ministers and say that please allot this kind of a fund to us. And when the central government allots the fund, the state government does not have its money and its due share to be given to that specific project. And with all these things, the projects are suffering, whether it is an outer ring road project, suburban railway project, or even the small projects are suffering. Even suburban railway projects, 60% was supposed to be given by the central government, 40% was supposed to be given by the
Ashok Gowda, let Raghu Doderi respond.
Yeah, I think that the data what is coming out of the BJP's WhatsApp University has to be let them cross verify. So first of all, let me tell you the facts what the government of the Karnataka government we are expecting just before the BJP loses its government, they have floated a tender for 1.92 lakh crore. So it is their mistake that we are just clearing the mess, including the Bangalore. So the BJP government, the mess, what they have done in the 4 years, we are just trying to clean the mess. So in the previous government, so more than 49 people died. The BJP murdered 49 people, not filling the potholes. Whereas the Congress government came and, immediately after our government came into power, we have already, put across this white tapping and no single pothole or a pothole related accident took place in our regime. This clearly shows that and 1.5 lakh crore worth of project is happening in Bangalore, which is highest in the entire country. So
Mr. Gowda, you have a point.
Anywhere in the city, anywhere across
Mr.
the country,
Gowda,
it is
quickly
only
make your point, sir.
Please, very. Bangalore is the only city which is seeing 1.5 lakh crore worth project is happening. So just give us. So we need little more time to clean the mess of a BJP
Reddy,
government.
we're running out of time. Please let Ashok Gowda make his point. Last word, Ashok Gowda.
Let me tell you the fact of the matter is, there are 5 people who have died in the road accidents because of the pothole. That is point number 1. Point number 2, it is already 28 months they are in government, and they cannot say that the 4 years BJP ruled, and that is why this mess is there. And before that, who was ruling in Karnataka? Out of this 78 years of Karnataka's existence, they have ruled more than 55 years.
So clearly,
so
Mr. Gowda, that's the line that I want to end with.
the
Legacy problems seem to be the essential problem here, Veera, but clearly we can expect some answers from Prime Minister Modi when he speaks on the 10th of August, and of course, the responses that the opposition would give then.
Well, but Vasudha, while politicians will keep fighting and trying to take credit, you know it can be a nightmare to be a pedestrian in Bengaluru. I'm sure anywhere else in India, in an Indian city as well. But Bengaluru has one of the highest rates of pedestrian deaths. I was at Whitefield this afternoon, Vasudha, and I think it's high time for all of us to tell our politicians to go take a walk, literally. Every time the focus comes to infrastructure in Bengaluru, it's about potholes, it's about traffic moving slow, it's about metro trains and suburban railways. What about those who walk? What about the pedestrians? We are at this busy ITPL junction in the Whitefield area, and I'll tell you, it's impossible to cross the road from one side to the other. It's an extremely busy area with malls, your top tech offices around here, the ITPL office. There's several more hospitals, everything around here, but it's impossible to cross the road from one side to the other. Impossible in every sense of the word, except in the Indian sense, because here it's possible. We make everything possible, but is this the way we should be crossing the road? With me is Devyani of Whitefield Rising, one of the groups which has been campaigning for better pedestrian safety. You don't have signals, you've got just a small path to cut through the road. Devyani, this is one of the quintessential examples of Whitefield's rising areas where, crossing the road is virtually impossible.
You're absolutely right, and you're in luck that we are at afternoon here, which is not a peak traffic. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to stand, because two-wheelers also use this path to cross, along with the pedestrians. So we are always in competition to cross and always unsure of what will happen at the end of the road.
And the reason why you can't have signals in this spot, there are other signals just a few meters away, which we saw, which doesn't work. It's red all the time. And you don't want to have signals because traffic will slow down.
Yes, that's the feedback we have received. Even if we ask them to put a speed breaker, they will say, but ma'am, that will reduce the flow of traffic. So everybody only cares about the speed because they don't want that red color on Google Maps. That's a metric they follow. Walking people, there is no red color on Google Maps, so nobody cares about it.
Just tell me about this area and how congested it is.
Oh, it is very congested. Right across, we can see a road which was earlier a zebra crossing, which has...
Well, what we understand is that Donald Trump has signed an executive order hitting India with an additional 25% tariff as punishment for buying Russian oil.
Right.
Veera, just yesterday he said that he is going to impose significant tariffs on India as a way of punishing India for buying Russian oil.
To help me understand this, Vasudha, it means 25% more than the 25% that was already announced, and this was that penalty that he had announced in the last time. The 24-hour deadline we were expecting later tonight, but it's happened already right now. That's going to be a huge blow, something that's extremely worrying for India in terms of its India-US relations. It's actually been seen as something of an obnoxious step by the president, by several experts in India, Vasudha.
Absolutely, Veera. I remember that Indian officials have been working hard to get that BTA, the bilateral trade agreement, signed with US officials, but that has not really worked out because what we hear is that India was not ready to compromise on several sectors, specifically agriculture. And now what we understand is that Donald Trump has imposed a 25% additional tariff on India, and all of this happening even as there was a debate going on, Operation Sindoor, and Donald Trump himself several times coming in, intervening and saying that he was the one who facilitated the ceasefire between India and Pakistan. Now we understand that Donald Trump has signed an executive order imposing an additional 25% tariff on India. This is apart from the 25% tariff that's already been imposed on India, and this is after what he said yesterday.
That's a total 50%.
Yes. Veera, what do you have to say?
That's a total 50% tariff there.
Absolutely. Veera, where does India stand? Because we've been talking about the kind of competitors we have, like, Vietnam or Bangladesh, but clearly 50% is a lot. It is a diplomatic setback. How do you see this? How do you see the fallout?
Well, I think this really changes, right? Every part of the world has been contending with it. This could be part of the negotiating process that's been playing out as well. Let's not forget, this is not the final word, but the fact, the tonality of it, Vasudha, and the kind of statements that's come out has been what has really led to concerns. At the start, when that first announcement came through at 25% tariff, several observers believe that this was a maximalist position that he's taken with several people trying to bargain and get on the track for his "Make America Great Again" slogan. How this is going to work out? Because, for instance, China has taken on Trump, but there are questions over China getting some kind of recess in certain spaces as well. So it would be very closely watched. The fact that this has been linked to Russian oil as well tends to raise several concerning questions as far as India's own strategic interests are concerned. It will be negotiated very, very closely.
Right. We did see that statement that MEA put out, strongly defending India's position and decision to buy Russian oil, saying that it was the United States of America that had also encouraged parts of it. They had also talked about the duplicity of NATO nations buying Russian gas as well. But clearly, Trump slapping 25% additional tariff on India, not just a diplomatic setback, but clearly something that is obnoxious and something that India should be talking against. But remember, Veera, that countries like Brazil have also talked about it, and this is something that's happening across the world. India is not the only one that is.
Vasudha.
Yeah.
Vasudha, I think an isolationist policy could perhaps work out. One has to see how this plays out, because the long-term implications of this could well be very, very interesting to watch out of.
Absolutely.
Which economies need which ones more, how it's going to play out would be very, very interesting and important to watch out for.
Yes, Veera, we're also looking at this as an opportunity, but remember that there was always this apprehension and expectation that Trump would chicken out, the taco aspect, but clearly this is a decision that he has made. Disha Bakshi joins us from the newsroom, and she has been tracking this issue very closely. Disha, explain to us, is this 25%, this is apart from the 25% that he has already imposed on us, where does India stand now in terms of global competition?
Absolutely. So the explosive announcement coming in from US President Trump now with the additional 25% tariffs, which he's calling as a penalty for India's imports of Russian oil. The total tariffs on India from US is now at a whooping 50%. So this is one of the highest tariff rates on any that the US has imposed on any country so far in the last couple of months. We've seen that earlier China had faced this kind of escalating tariff rates from 45% to almost 125%, but even that was then reduced, and now they're having a truce. But even Brazil had initially faced a 45% tariff rate, but now that was also reduced later on. But now with India, this whooping 50% tariff rate is going to have a significant impact on India's trade relationship with the US, and really escalating this war of words with now actions announcing this 25% tariff rate, something that nobody really was expecting, that it would be a whooping 50% tariff rate now, one of the highest that India has ever faced from the United States. So really, US President Trump making it clear that he's not going to tolerate India's imports of Russian oil. And this also comes as NSA Ajit Doval is in Moscow right now. He's expected to meet President Putin tomorrow. We are yet to see how India is going to respond to this, whether we look at the WTO now to retaliate with tit-for-tat tariffs, or will we now look at talks and see how we can bring this tariff rate down?
It's a very important point that you're flagging off there, Disha. The fact that the NSA is in Moscow at the moment and this 25% excess penalty tariff, Vishal also joins us now, is in addition to the first 25%. Vishal, there was a sense when the first 25% was announced that it was a maximalist bargaining position, perhaps, something that could get toned down as the negotiators sat and thrashed it out. But Trump seems to be getting from maximalist to perhaps extraordinary extreme positions at the moment. So what's the sense you're picking up as far as the reaction from India is going to be? I mean, this is something that's going to be a little worrying for the Indian establishment.
Well, it was quite expected that the tariffs would be raised to about 50% because some experts have even suggested that the tariffs could go up to as much as 200% because he had spoken about pharmaceuticals separately as well and said that the tariffs could be as much as 250%. But right now he's gone on to 50%. That was also quite expected. As Disha was also mentioning that he has been on a tirade of, exerting this pressure on India, this new pressure that was not seen in the last 3 to 4 decades. This was quite surprising that whatever stance Trump has taken in the last 48 hours has created ripples across foreign policy that India has built over the years. So what will be the repercussions? What way India reacts now? That is interesting to be seen because India has been clamping down hard on whatever Trump has been saying. Many disinformation, misinformation has been shared by the Trump administration from Trump himself. And India has, taken that opportunity to expose him on the international stage and say that whatever Trump has said is not right. The mean tariff that India exposes on almost more than 50% of the products that come into Indian territory that just stands at 4.6%. That's way below whatever the advanced economies exert on imports when they go into their country. So that way, India has been able to expose Trump, and also many global South nations such as Brazil have also extended their helping hand, the supporting hand. Lula, the president of Brazil, has just commented that he will not be speaking to Trump when it comes to tariffs. Whether or not India also takes the same stance, that remains to be seen because Lula has been known to take on Trump for a long time now.
So that's a very important point, Vishal is talking about.
I think this will also be a test of Prime Minister's diplomacy in terms of the optics and the language that the Prime Minister and India would use in response to this. This was possibly perhaps a big test for the Prime Minister's diplomacy.
In fact, 15th of August, the Independence Day, was when a lot of my sources were also saying that the Prime Minister could be talking about it. Disha, 2 important points here. One, what are the diplomatic options that India has now, something that both Veera and Vishal talked about? And the second, what are the sectors that need to worry about or watch out for? We know about gems and jewelry, pharma and textiles, but which are the sectors that are likely to get affected?
Right. So firstly, talking about India's diplomatic options now. One option that I already mentioned was, of course, retaliatory action, especially at the WTO, challenging these Trump tariffs as illegal, which is something that New Delhi has been exploring. Apart from that, of course, retaliatory tariffs on US goods, which could again have a massive impact on the US economy. But apart from that, look, both officials from both sides, US and India, continue to have these negotiations. The talks are still ongoing. A US trade team is also expected to arrive in India later this month on the 25th of August. So that is still, the talks are still ongoing. So there is a possibility that using the shared strategic interests of both Washington and New Delhi, emphasizing on that, India perhaps could push Washington to reach some sort of trade deal that's mutually beneficial. But that is right now seems a little unlikely because clearly President Trump is on this tirade of imposing tariffs, pressurizing, weaponizing these tariffs to push India to reach some sort of trade deal. But apart from that, another crucial diplomatic move that India can also make is diversifying its oil supply and its oil resources. Because right now, before the Ukraine war, in fact, India did not import as much Russian oil. But now, since the war, India was importing this Russian oil, but they're also looking at Gulf states. Prime Minister Modi visited various Gulf states last year. So this is another important aspect that India can diversify its oil suppliers to get out of this US-Russia competition that India has somehow
About the
become a
upcoming
part of.
SEO summit and Trump tariffs, the larger context to this, how is India going to navigate this diplomatically? I know the parliament session is on and tomorrow there are going to be many questions that are going to be asked of the government, but with the SEO summit coming up, Prime Minister all set to travel to China, how do you see the geopolitical context?
Even China, in fact, has called out US President Trump's abuse of tariffs. That's the word they use, abuse of tariffs, repeatedly. And even a couple of days ago, on the 1st of August, just a day after US President threatened India with the 25% tariffs, China said that we will not tolerate this abuse of tariffs, and this is not just harmful to rivals, but overall to the global economic system. So China also, as part of the BRICS bloc, is very much against the Trump tariffs and sees this as abuse. So it'll be interesting to see if there's going to be a bilateral meeting between Prime Minister Modi and the Chinese president.
Sure, just give me a second, because we've got Shiv Arur as well joining us here live, who's been tracking this very closely. Shiv, in multiple ways, it's also going to be a test of the tone that India has used so far. Let's not miss the fact that the National Security Advisor being in Moscow is not a diplomatic message at this stage that was going on. So perhaps India taking that calculated chances.
Veera and Vasudha, India has been extremely sober, very calm, very measured so far. But I think Trump has made it very clear that by putting his threats into action and announcing this doubling of the tariffs from 25% to 50%, we can at least be reasonably clear now, that's not just shadow play, it's not just smoke and mirrors. There's definitely negotiations going on, there's a lot of hardball being played, but this is a president of the United States who doesn't seem to want to back off. He cares two hoots for whether there's going to be pushback or not. But what we've seen over the last 48 hours, I think, is an India that has not only stood its ground, but stood firm and actually begun a kind of Plan B counterattack. You've got the External Affairs Ministry putting out an unusually, strident message to Trump, where they've actually called out American hypocrisy in the importing of Russian equipment. I have a feeling, Veera and Vasudha, that may have been sort of poking a bear a little bit, diplomatically speaking, but it's a chance that the Indian system appears to have taken, considering that the public mood right now is one of being frankly kind of cheesed off with the way Trump has disrespected and shown open diplomatic contempt for India. I think Indians and the Indian system.
Aspect of it, the fact that this is a punishment for buying Russian oil. We have talked about how the duplicity of it. How do you look at India navigating this diplomatically, because Russia has been a tried and tested friend?
Like Veera said, Vasudha, the fact that National Security Advisor Ajit Doval happens to be in Moscow right now, of course it was a scheduled visit, but the messaging is unmissable, right? Yeah. And, where is someone like a Trump going to understand the nuances of context? Are we really going to have an MEA guy say, don't worry, Mr. Trump, this was a pre-scheduled visit, etc. At a time like this, when India is front and center and clearly on Trump's table, given that he's issuing these threats and ultimatums practically on a daily basis, the one thing we can be very clear about is that this is a politician who is putting his money where his mouth is, clearly, quite literally. And I think your question is the most important one. How do we navigate this? So far, India has shown that it is going to be calm, it's going to be measured, no knee-jerk reactions, no histrionics to match Trump, because we will never be able to win in that particular arena. But a sort of calibrated pushback is clearly underway. I happened to meet some senior officials from the External Affairs Ministry yesterday at the Rashtrapati Bhavan as well, when the Philippines president was being felicitated. And I can tell you that it's action stations on the in the Indian system. There are sleepless nights in the government right now. Nobody knows for sure what Trump's next move is going to be. There appears to be a clear case of wanting to separate Trump from the American system, but it's becoming increasingly difficult, right?
Right.
That's right. You know, Shiv, a couple of former diplomats that I was speaking to, a couple of days back say this is also like a game of bluff. Yeah. Who's going to call whose bluff? Because they believe that in the long run, neither country can afford to break away that business strategic relationship, which is extraordinarily close. So I think India also pretty much trying to send out, Shiv, correct me if I'm wrong, a message with this that it's not a diplomatic pushover. It's willing to take what it has to in terms of standing its ground on certain issues, which is specifically like Russian oil.
Calibration is really the name of the game here. I couldn't agree with you more, Veera, when you say that, this is a long-standing, very powerful relationship. Presidents come and go, but the India-US relationship has sustained in many ways actually worse than this. It's only that Trump sort of articulates and gives words to what even previous presidents have actually done as far as the India-US relationship is concerned. But having said that, I think the India-Russia relationship is an extremely important one. India is not going to wager or negotiate on that even for a moment. I think India understands where it currently stands on this shape-shifting chessboard. You've got Prime Minister Modi, Veera and Vasudha, the story that we broke earlier today. We can categorically confirm he's flying off to China at the end of this month for the SCO summit. So all of these things are going to be read as messages. And India understands that while the India-US relationship has proven to be extremely resilient in the past as well, we've seen problems with Biden. Boy, have we seen problems with Bush and Obama as well. But here is a president who, who, like I said, gives shape and optics to what most people consider to be existing deep state policy in the United States. So how we're going to navigate it? Are we going to sort of up the temperature back at Trump? Like Veera correctly said, is it going to be a game of brinkmanship? Who's going to blink first? I'm going to call out your bluff. Hopefully at the end of all of it, there will be a meeting ground somewhere where suddenly there is this, the sun rises from the clouds and suddenly you have this loving, affectionate message from Trump. I think that's something that could actually happen.
Shiv, I was talking to a senior minister and he said that na Trump ban sakte hain, na unko hum bol sakte hain, we will watch out for our own interests. That's what he said. But Shiv, there's a question on everybody's mind. Why is this happening now? Because we just saw the Prime Minister also talk about how no international global leader has played a part in the ceasefire. We also saw the trade deal not working out because India stood its ground, when it came to agricultural products, something that was very crucial for Trump working this out. Why do you think this is happening?
Look, that's a tough one, right, Vasudha? Multiple aspects. I'm sorry, we seem to have lost the line with Shiv at the moment, right, Vasudha?
Yeah.
I think multiple aspects at play. Let's not forget that there's been, as Shiv was pointing out, and I was just tempted to add that we've also seen the Nixon-Kissinger era back in the 70s. So India-US has gone through much more, but the people-to-people ties, there's business strategic interests, and I think just the sheer volume of scale of business investments here and the ties on the other side, the strategic interests, may be too difficult to overlook, but it's as somebody pointed out, and presidents come and presidents go. But at the moment, we may have to brace ourselves for a lot of turbulence in the coming days. Why it's happening? Multiple points as you make out, national security issues, Operation Sindoor, then Trump's questions. One doesn't want to link to do to the other.
Okay, let's bring in Shiv again. Shiv, over to you now.
Thanks very much, Veera and Vasudha. We're continuing our coverage right now, and our breaking coverage on Trump doubling the tariffs on India is a big breaking story. NDTV, of course, broke it first, and the repercussions, the impact, the fallout is something that we're going to be decoding right through prime time here. It is by far the biggest story with the biggest ramifications for us all over this country. Welcoming onto our coverage, Asha Jadeja Motwani. She's a well-known Indian-American venture capitalist and philanthropist. Asha, welcome. Good to see you. We did see your tweet a few hours ago, Asha, where you said, Prime Minister Modi needs to pick up the phone in good faith, speak to Trump, diffuse this situation, and put an end to this suspense between India and the US, which is very damaging for relations, even though it's between Trump and India at this point of time. Just before you joined us, Trump and the White House have announced a doubling of those tariffs, Asha. What do you make of that?
Well, this is shocking, and this escalation must not be allowed to happen. The ball is in India's court right now. Remember, India is an extremely important strategic partner for the United States. And I'm not sure exactly what's happening with Trump and in the White House right now, but they're trying to play sort of brinkmanship right now and trying to get India to say yes to buying more energy from the US and buying more weapons from the US. I think what India needs to, first thing we need to do is make sure that that the Prime Minister picks up the phone, talks to Trump and says that we should continue these negotiations, number one. Number two, second thing is that we need to make sure that we communicate to the president that India is the only country that has a foot in the door with Russia of our size and of our relationship, that has a foot in the door with a relationship with Russia so that we can be the peacemaker. We are the main peacemaker between Russia and Ukraine right now. We are the most important peace builder. So this is another point that needs to be communicated. Third thing that needs to be communicated by the Prime Minister is that we are stabilizing the oil markets right now by consuming so much of Russian oil, crude oil, which has been hugely approved by the Biden administration. We are stabilizing the markets and we are providing what the US wants us to do, which is not let Russians provide oil directly to the Europeans, and instead we are the ones providing. That's what the Biden administration also wanted. That's exactly what the US wants. It's in its strategic interest. So these are few points that we need to communicate to the team. But most important thing right now is for us to set aside our ego, knowing that we are extremely important to the United States, and make sure that we reassure Trump that the US is very important to us and that we will do what it takes in buying more energy, number one. And number two, buying more weapon systems, slowly but surely. And number three, that our businesses, our massive business houses, will invest in the US. We will create more jobs in the US. Itna bolne mein kuch hoga nahi. There is no communication, there is no commitment.
Asha ji, I take your point. I know what you're saying is in good faith, but I am just wondering, where is the question of ego in all of this? Prime Minister Modi and Donald Trump share a very good personal equation. None of the things that you have said are unknown to Trump and his advisors. They know very well, why India needs to buy Russian oil. They know all these reasons. All these explanations are very well known to them. This is something else. There is something else going on. This is about the deal,
there
obviously.
Is one more thing.
India has bought $30 billion worth of defense equipment, ma'am. It's, what are we missing here?
No, there is. So here's what. This is more conspiracy theory kind of a thing that it has been lurking in my mind. The reason Pakistan has so much leverage in the US right now is because it's piggybacking on the massive Qatari lobby networks in Washington, D.C. It is an old friendship between Qatar and Pakistan. It's a very powerful Sunni network, and they're going to work on it. They're going to, Qatar is going to support Pakistan against India at any cost. This is my guess right now. Once again, it's a conspiratorial kind of a theory that I have, but I think that the Qataris have put pressure on the Trump team to make sure that we denounce India. But that's my guess. I don't have any proof of that. But my thing right now is that US is too important for India, and India is too important for US, for the Indian leadership to let this play out on its own. We need to be more proactive.
Asha ji, but the question I'm asking is, is it something substantial that Trump expects, or is he looking for a gesture? From your tweet, it looks like he wants someone to come and kiss his ring, give him a gesture that makes him feel good, some kind of an ego massage, Nobel Peace Prize. ऐसा कुछ चाहिए क्या उनको?
Shiv, this is all that is. It is just gesture. Trump is very easy to work on. Play the game correctly, kiss his ring if we have to, but make sure that we tell Trump that, first of all, what's the harm in thanking him for saying, hey, thank you for making so many phone calls during the Operation Sindoor. At least thank you, right? If nothing else. And what's the harm in saying that? Number one. Number two, yes, he wants everybody to come and kiss his ring. I mean, Trump is known to be, egomaniac, and that's okay. I mean, just tell him that we are going to work on it and get this going, because we are too important. India is too important to the US right now for this relationship. And US cannot afford to push us into the arms of China right now.
Okay.
So please just make sure that you speak to the right people in the White House, Shiv. You should not be speaking to, people like Subhash Garg and all these people, Indian IAS officers who were fired by Nirmala Sitharaman. Why are they giving gyan on this whole thing? We should not be pushed into the arms of China.
This is very interesting. This is actually perhaps the most interesting thing I've heard in the last 72 hours, which is that, it is not a substantive move or some big concession that Trump is looking for. He's looking for a kiss on his ring, some kind of ego massage, a thank you, a recommendation for the Nobel Peace Prize, which may be actually a little bit more difficult than actual trade concessions. But welcoming Smita Prakash, editor ANI, Yashvardhan Sinha, former ambassador to the United Kingdom, as well as Professor Andrew Latham, author and professor of political science at Macalester College, York University in the United States. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for being with us. Smita, very quickly to you. How are you reading this? Trump at least putting his money where his mouth is as far as that 24-hour deadline is concerned, and pushing very hard. He said 24 hours ke baad, if you guys have not stopped buying Russian oil or at least reduced it, your tariffs are going to be doubled. What do you think, Smita?
Yeah, well, so since this morning, one has been hearing all kinds, like from 25% to 100%. So it was, I think the fine print and the details still have to be deciphered. We have a couple of days for making the conversations, taking the conversations further. I don't think it's a shutdown completely. But the way he's saying it, it seems to be that he's like setting the pitch for his batsmen before a resumption of trade talks, if there are, and maybe modify this order if there is no retaliation from our side. Of course, we won't fold in like say the Indonesians did or whatever, but he knows that these are tough negotiations and he is holding out a carrot and stick approach. It's probably his way of doing business. I think both Modi and Trump, they're both economic nationalists. I don't think we should see this as simply an ego thing, or it's like we need to kiss his ring and it's a Nobel Prize. I think things go beyond this. There are delegations working on this, and that's not been their takeaway. And with US now, one has to be pragmatic enough to understand that we have entered this realm of being a transactional relationship with them. The sooner we realize it, it is better. We should just wipe the slate clean of legacy issues. Those legacy paths, I think, Shiv, are now shut forever. At least I don't see that reopening. And that's how other countries are also doing. Protracted negotiations to reach their deals. EU has forgotten its historical past. Japan has forgotten its historical past with the US. And very stoically, they have gone ahead. That, or else we just tighten the belts and weather the storm, whether it is 25% today and another 75% henceforth. Now, tariffs are negative growth stories. Our GDP is going to get hurt. That will not be good for the India story, a story that Mr. Modi has to take back to his people again and again, because, we have continuous elections in this country. So he has to take back the India story again and again. And Indian negotiators will have to swallow the humility pill, unfortunately, because that's how it is. I mean, US tariffs on Chinese imports fell, right? After, I think, 140 or 145% or something like that, it fell down to 35% after negotiations. And China did have negotiations, fine. They are a larger economy. They can push back more. We are strong too, but we are not China, and we are not the Europe. We are not Japan. Still, we are holding on. So penalties will be there. We'll have to take the hit. The government has talked, just the government now, it is necessary for the BJP as a party and the government to talk to the people in this country and tell them that we have to do this, we have to talk. There's no need to get to get hurt by taunts that come in from the opposition that, oh my God, the Modi-Trump bond has taken a hit and it's all lose, lose, lose from here. No, I don't think we should go that path.
Very interesting. So it's not just about a kiss on the ring. It's much more substantive than that. Perhaps gestures are part of it, icing on the cake, if you will. But there is going to have to be some concession, some middle ground, removing legacy issues and maybe hitting reboot as far as ties between the two countries are concerned. That's what the opportunity is here. Ambassador Sinha, how are you reading this? What should India do next?
Shiv, thank you for having me. At the outset, I think we should not press any panic buttons. We should handle this maturely.
Yeah.
I'm afraid I respectfully disagree with Ms. Motwani. We are too big a country of 1.4 billion people. We are the fourth largest economy in the world, heading towards being the third largest. We don't kiss rings. And as far as massaging egos are concerned, I remember the Howdy Modi event at Houston. I remember in Ahmedabad, the Modi Stadium, the sort of welcome that President Trump got. I don't think he would have got that sort of welcome anywhere else in the world. So I think what we must understand that this is a very strong relationship. I mean, the trade in goods and services are now almost $200 billion. American companies have invested about $60 billion into India. And Indian companies have invested around $40 billion into the US.
Yeah.
The US is our largest trading partner, and we are the US's 12th largest trading partner. But the relationship is based on give and take. It's based on mutual respect. We cannot be slighted and insulted like this. And I understand President Trump, that's his style, and that is how he likes to negotiate, and we are prepared to negotiate. We've had 5 rounds of negotiations already. And in fact, a framework had been agreed to, but that has been torpedoed. Now we hope that the next round, which will take place on the 25th of August, I believe, will produce results. I mean, look at the way we are being tariffed out. I mean, we are supposed to be a strategic partner. In fact, if I remember, one of his predecessors described the India-US relationship as the defining partnership of the 21st century.
Exactly.
Where has all that gone? In one stroke of a pen or a tweet or a whatever, 30 years of hard work, assiduously built upon by people on both sides, is crumbling. And mind you, Shiv, this is going to have a lasting impact. It's not, we might reach a deal, I'm sure, and I hope that we reach a deal. But, buying defense equipment, forget it. What sort of defense equipment? F-35s from an unreliable partner? I'm afraid, I think we will think twice before going in for anything.
I'm wondering exactly the same thing.
This is the problem. I mean, we really need to analyze and see where we went wrong. I'm sure we went wrong too somewhere.
I'm going to come to that bit in just a moment. That we all hope that there's a deal in sight. After all this drama, hopefully there is a deal that's going to actually be struck between the two countries and the relationship can proceed. But what about the scars of the things that have been said? I think that is something that needs to be addressed as well. Welcoming Willem Buiter, American-British economist, also onto our coverage. But Professor Latham, to you first, how do you see what's just happened? The second tariff bomb, as we're calling it, has been dropped as promised by Trump. What do you think is going to happen next? How do you see India responding now?
Well, I think it'd be wise for India, if I can speak for Indians, not to overreact, not to react very much at all, just to plow ahead and do what they've been doing, because this too shall pass. Trump is having a little bit of a temper tantrum. He beat up Japan, he beat up Indonesia, he beat up the EU, he got what he wanted. He's beating up Canada and Mexico. He's going to get what he wanted there. And he's frustrated because India won't roll over and play dead. And there are good reasons for that, which have less to do with Indian national pride. Canadians have national pride, Japanese have national pride. It has to do with electoral dynamics in India. The BJP can't roll over on this and sacrifice the agricultural sector and the pharmaceutical and so on and expect to be reelected anywhere in the near future. If I were to take a 30,000-foot perspective on this very, very quickly, I would say three things. One of which is that Trump is damaging the geoeconomic relationship here. The rules-based international order, if not dead, is on its deathbed. And Trump has figured this out, and he's partly engineered it, and now he's looking to do as many bilateral trade deals as possible. With everybody from Canada to Japan and out to India, it's no longer a world order, as it were. It's a bunch of bilateral relationships. That is not going to work in the long run. Geopolitically, India and the United States have to be aligned in the Indo-Pacific because of the China. There are lots of forces pushing them together in that respect. And I think, therefore, that this is a bit of a storm that will pass because the interests are simply too deep and they're too aligned. And finally, something which very few people know about, either in or beyond the U.S., is that Trump is alienating the largest and most powerful diaspora in the United States, which is they naturally, historically, have gravitated towards the Democratic Party. They started to move towards the Republican Party during Trump 1.0. And I think he's going to decelerate that movement, if not reverse that movement. And that's going to have domestic electoral implications as the Indian diaspora, which, as I said, is the most wealthy and powerful diaspora in the United States.
I think Asha Jadeja Motwani was speaking a little bit from that perspective as well, and I'll come back to her and all my guests in just a moment. Vishnu Shom joins us live from Israel. He's been reporting from there. I've asked him to plug in just a moment, but before I go back to all of you, what does this mean for India? 50% tariffs, 25% more than what it was earlier. I just wanted to quickly break it down so there's context for all of our viewers. Higher cost. Obviously, it stands at 50% tariffs right now. It's a setback as far as steel, chemicals and pharmaceuticals are concerned. The India-US trade imbalance obviously will be widened quite dramatically. Now, take a look at the high tariff charts that hits all these countries. India stands at 50%, Brazil at 50%, China is at 30%, interestingly, Canada at 35%, Switzerland at 39%, and Iraq at 35%. So that's where things stand right now. 50% is where it's at as far as India is concerned, and we've just named all those sectors which will be impacted. We'll have to see whether there's going to be any follow-up announcement from the White House on this. But Willem Buiter, your opening comment on this: India shouldn't overreact. So far, it has signaled that it is no pushover. It's not going to have any knee-jerk reactions to these announcements. But it looks like Trump is only escalating further and further. What do you think?
Yes, this 50% hike is not unexpected, but it is very punitive. But it's not the end of the story. Negotiations will go on and must go on. But I also believe that at the moment, while India is the fastest growing economy in the world and could well in 10 years be the second largest economy in the world, at the moment, it's a minor trade partner for the US. 2.7% of US exports go to India, 2.7% US imports. So there's very little trading bargaining power. The bargaining power is geopolitical, right? And I think there will have to be concessions by China, inevitably. Russian oil is not something that is simply Trump bluffing. This is a real issue for all of the West. And of course, Indian tariffs are among the highest in the world. And a selective reduction in tariffs, politically not too sensitive in India, seems to be an inevitable part of the reconciliation story.
Smita, is Russian oil, India's purchase of Russian oil, according to you, your understanding with the people you've spoken to, is that a negotiable right now? So far, India has signaled that, our energy security interests are, nobody can touch that or dictate on that. What is your sense? Is that something that, India could dial down?
No, so this is where I think most of the objection of America is. They will, as far as the other issues are concerned, they will negotiate with us. But on the point of Russian oil, I think it is no go for both of them.
Yeah.
This is where it is getting stuck in everything. But to take off from where Yash Sinha had said that, look, we are a mature republic. We understand that it's a dynamic situation. We will have to bring in some kind of engage diplomatically, use our heft with our other partners, say in the Quad, in G20, in the UN, partners who Trump listens to. I won't say America listens to, I'll just say Trump listens to, because here it seems like we have negotiators in the Republican administration. We've had very good ties with the Republican Party, as we did with the Democrats. But here it seems that it's just Trump that one has to deal with. So we have to figure out pathways where we can talk. And, the thing is that what should I say? Things do sour up between two nations. There are times when these become partnerships. There are no permanent friends. There are no perpetual enemies. So, it's only interests that matter. And we've maintained these special relationships in this multipolar world that we are in. The NSA is in Moscow today. You think DC doesn't know that? They are obviously watching that. They would have seen it very carefully. And it's something that we have to, and I keep reiterating that while we talk to America, while we keep with the Russian oil, we need that. We are going to keep with that. But we also need to build up domestic resilience. We need to talk politically to our own people and explain the situation. That communication is lacking too. I think there too, the government needs to be more proactive.
Very interesting. Asha Jadeja Motwani, on the important point of the all-powerful Indian diaspora in the United States. Are they, A, what do they think? And B, is there a back channel to Trump and his advisors from powerful Indians in the United States, wondering what the hell is going on?
So right now, the only back channel is me. So thank you, first of all, for bringing me on this show, because I'm a donor to the Republican. I'm a shameless donor to the Republican Party, and I'm doing this Shiv, my recommendation to all of you in the media business. Talk to people who know the White House. Talk to people who understand the White House, who have relationships in the White House, and who are meeting with Trump, who are meeting with Howard Lutnick, who have a relationship with Howard Lutnick. This is important. You guys need to speak to Ricky Gill. Bring Ricky Gill on the show, please. It's crucial that you bring Walter Russell Mead and Ricky Gill on your show. From the Indian diaspora, it's just me right now. And it's so sad, because it should be many more of us who should be connected to the White House. And hopefully this is going to happen now that people understand the pressures. But remember that this is only temporary, as the professor said. This too shall pass. Right now, India is too important to the United States for any of this to drag on for too long. But we need to pick up the phone. India needs to pick up the phone and call Trump and make him feel good about himself. He's an egomaniac, unfortunately, and we need to work on that. He's easy, though. He's easy to work with by picking up the phone. We need to do that. It's urgent.
Okay, some substantive concessions, but also picking up the phone and making Trump feel good about himself, is a difficult package. But at this moment, it's seeming like a bitter pill to swallow after all the things that have been said. And I agree with Ambassador Sinha on that front as well. Vishnu Shom, our group executive editor, is live with me from Israel. Vishnu, sorry to drag you away from your frontline reporting, but I did want a perspective on this, because it's an important one. You're looking at all of these things very, very closely. What are you hearing from the External Affairs Ministry and the government, Vishnu, about how India is going to react to this? What is India's next step now that this second tariff bomb is dropped?
Well, it is a tariff bomb, and if you look at India's response a couple of days back, when Donald Trump made his latest series of threats, New Delhi came up with a response within 2 hours where we blamed the West and the United States for hypocrisy, saying that the United States continues itself to import several items from Russia. The energy requirements of Europe are partially met from Russia as well. So therefore, why is it that America is now picking on India? These are double standards and this is hypocrisy. If that is the precedent which has been set by New Delhi, and with Donald Trump now acting on what he has threatened and is raising tariffs up to 50%, which matches the highest, which is Brazil, then New Delhi will actually have to look at this from a more long-term standpoint. And I think that is a matter of real concern. In as much as we might get a trade deal done, I do believe that this decision by Donald Trump might result in a significant trust deficit between Washington and New Delhi. There is too much on the table already to completely discard. Nobody is thinking about that so far. But that trust deficit is very, very significant. Why? Because India and the US have historically deeply distrusted each other. But they've developed that sense of trust after signing several foundational agreements over a period of more than 20 years, despite very sharp differences. The relationship is at an extremely critical level when it comes to defense, technology, the economy, pharma, clean energy, you name it. And now to have the US president all of a sudden put all that aside and say, sorry, India, 50% tariffs, because you are meeting your energy requirements and I have a problem with that. That is something that would hurt New Delhi deeply. So I would suspect, best case scenario, the trust between New Delhi and Washington will be eroded significantly.
Vishnu, thanks very much for that perspective. Hugely important. The trust factor is something that we haven't spoken about, and that is something that Ambassador Sinha also sort of hinted at. But the question I'd like to ask you, the second question I'd like to ask you, Ambassador Sinha, then is, what would be happening in the Indian External Affairs Ministry right now in the government? How would they be preparing to respond? Obviously, government wargaming the possibility of 25% going to 50%, 50% going to 100% is all very much on the table. So what would a Plan B discussion look like at this time?
Shiv, I can't second guess the government because I'm well out of the government for quite some years now. But all I can say is that it would be a very considered response. India doesn't react in a knee-jerk fashion. It's always a very considered response, and I'm quite sanguine that that's what will happen. As I said earlier, we need to continue on the path of negotiation. We'd be very happy. I completely agree with what Vishnu has said. And I did say it, I didn't use the word trust, but I did say the relationship as it was built up is being undermined. But I think the problem is that when the deal is done, if the deal is done, what has happened now has left a very bad taste in the mouth. I'm sure if Gallup or whoever else took a poll in India right now, you would get to know exactly what the Indian people feel. And after all, we are a democracy, and our government has to reflect the opinion of the people. And I think what this has done is to almost, and I use the word almost because there are some standouts, almost unified the country behind the government on one particular issue, and that is that we will not bow to foreign pressure like this.
Smita, very quick question. There is an erosion of trust for sure. Is there a communication breakdown that you're sensing? I don't want to oversimplify it and say, we need to just pick up the phone, even though I know Asha was using a metaphor there. But is there a communication breakdown, or is there a conversation going on to try and resolve this?
Unfortunately, one has to think of this as a communication breakdown. Otherwise, it would not have resulted in this kind of a penalty of an additional 25%. But it would be myopic to think that the US president is just a petulant child and an egomaniac, and all we need to do is suck up to him. I respectfully disagree. He's a tough negotiator. He prides himself in striking deals, whether you agree with him politically or not. But the fact is that he uses the bully pulpit of being the head of the most powerful country in the world, and he has struck deals for his country with friend and foe in the rest of the world. If you're an American, you'll give credit to him. Yes, his polls have shown that he's most unpopular right now, but he cares a zilch. He doesn't care at all what the world thinks, what the polls show. The thing is that I agree we should not react in a knee-jerk manner. Yes, we don't even react in a knee-jerk manner. That's not how our foreign policy works. We move, in fact, like an elephant. It took us decades to turn 90 degrees and reduce the suspicion levels with our relationship with the US. Even today, those in this city, in New Delhi, who have been working assiduously to improve ties with the US are probably striking their foreheads and saying, oh my God, is this what it's 2 decades of hard work gone down the chute? Because there are many people who are going to say that this is what America is. But the point is, this is not what America is. This is not what America thinks. Yes, temporarily, during this process that we are negotiating trade, this is what America thinks.
What are those concessions that India can make if Russian oil is not going to be one of them? What could it possibly be? I'm actually wondering, because Professor Latham, if I could bring you back into this, and we've got some breaking news coming in that the tariffs will take effect after 21 days. So there's this very substantial window obviously coming in, which is the clearest possible indication, and we can all agree that this is very much an active negotiation that's taking place. I agree with Smita, only a communication breakdown could have resulted, in this very language of, if you don't do this in the next 24 hours, then we'll take action, etc. But this 21-day window for the tariffs to take effect clearly signals that there is an opportunity for negotiation, and that negotiations, in fact, are probably happening. Professor Latham, what kind of concessions, in your view, could be on the table? India is making it clear, at least thus far, that cranking down the import of Russian oil is not up for discussion.
Well, first of all, I would say that the delay in terms of imposing the sanctions, that's Trump 101, isn't it? That's been the case since day one. This is a hard deadline, a hard deadline, a hard deadline. Oops, 21 days from now, 30 days from now, 90 days from now is the new deadline. So I'm not surprised. Secondly, what can India give? Well, it can't give Trump what he really, really, really wants, which is some concession on the oil. I mean, of course, India is going to buy cheap oil. It needs oil, and Russian oil is cheap at the moment. And I know it's hard for North Americans and Europeans to get this through their heads, but the Ukraine war is not the most important thing in the world around the world. That's really a Euro-Atlantic obsession at the moment, and it doesn't play that way in the global South. India is not going to reform its agricultural sector. Canada won't even reform its agricultural sector. I mean, there's too many jobs at stake. There's too many political constituencies that have some investment in that. There's just no way that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Where I do see some possibilities is in terms of defense industrial collaboration and cooperation. We've already seen baby steps taken in that direction. India purchasing not the F-35, which is a piece of junk, but maybe investing in the F-47, the sixth generation fighter, which is under development now in the United States. Maybe simply buying more from America that's not high profile, high tech, cutting edge, next generation stuff, and building the relationship around the obvious to me, which is this geopolitical relationship, which has an economic component to it.
Yeah.
Some of it is big, buying Russian oil, but some of it is smaller, buying American military technology or American firms investing in India, like General Electric has, for example. So I see small gestures, small movements. One last thing about gestures, this is not about Trump. This is about powerful American social forces that are being channeled by Trump. Does he matter? Yes, individuals matter in human history. But you take Trump out of the equation, those forces are still at play. And they're still going to be working themselves out. And India and Canada and other countries are still going to have to work out ways to deal with that part of the American population as long as they occupy the White House.
Ambassador DP Srivastav is also with us. He's India's former ambassador to Iran. Here on Primetime on NDTV, we're getting as many voices as possible on this constantly breaking story. A minute ago, we just told you that Trump has announced 21 days. It's 21 days for this tariff bomb to take effect. So obviously, there's a window for negotiations. Ambassador Srivastav, what do you make of this tariff bomb? We've been talking about it for the last 20 minutes. Various views here. How do you see it? What do you think India's reaction will be or should be?
Still, I was in Washington in early 90s, 91, when Super 301 and Special 301 sanctions were sought to be imposed on us. And we survived. So my suggestion is, of course, I'm out of the government, but I think we need to wait it out. Now, I have 3 or 4 points to make. This is not simply about oil. Europe buys gas from Russia. Russia accounts for 17% of Europe's LNG imports. So why only pick on Indian purchase of crude oil? Europe is also buying energy from Russia.
Yes.
The second point, that oil price cap, the system was devised by Americans. And the idea was to reduce Russian revenues without disturbing the global oil supply. And this is still in force. It is still part of the US law. And it is part of the EU law. The EU has now reduced the price cap from $60 to $47.5.
Yes.
Now, that arrangement was devised to allow third countries to continue buying Russian crude. Now, the third point, if there's a stop, what happens? Russia accounts for something like 5 million barrels of crude oil exports. Iran accounts for another 1.5 billion or so. So you will be removing about 6.5 to 7 million barrels per day of oil from world market. At the moment, the consumption is around 105 million barrels. So roughly more than 5% of the current supply. There is no alternate source which can take care of this. There will be a huge oil price shock, and this will also affect the American consumer. Now, the fourth point is, India is not America's problem. Our trade, our surplus is a paltry $47 billion or something, or around that figure.
Okay.
China has a $300 billion surplus. Similarly, in case of oil, China buys double as much from Russia oil, and it also buys something like 70 BCM, billion cubic meter of gas per year from Russia. So even in energy terms, unless China falls in line, it's not going to make any difference to Russian coffers and the war effort in Ukraine. And from looking at it from our point of view, similarly, on a conciliatory note, America is not our problem, because America is a market where we have run a surplus. So there is a reason to be, conciliatory to them. And I think one way out could be, we can partly diversify. For instance, LNG imports, we buy a lot of LNG from Qatar. Now, part of that can be diversified or changed. In fact, I was on the GAIL board for 3 years, and during my term, we started buying from America.
Ambassador, just hold on to that thought. Just look at this breaking news. I'll come right back to you on this because it's related to what you're saying. This is the third update on this broadcast where Trump has basically instructed his Secretary of Commerce to identify whether other countries are directly or indirectly purchasing Russian oil, and has threatened punitive tariffs against these countries as well. Smita, the point on Russian oil being reinforced, India has pushed back, very explicitly articulated that energy security is our autonomy, it's our sovereign decision, it's our national interest. Trump here is saying, forget about India. Anybody else looking at Russian oil is going to be punished in the same way. He's digging in his heels on this point as well.
It could also be because of the question that was asked in the press conference that, hey, you yourself are doing it, fertilizer. It was asked about that you're taking Russian fertilizer. So that could be that, oh, okay, so if we are taking it, the other countries must be taking it too. So this is just, it goes on and on, I don't think he's just hunting now, you know that game which is there where those little crocodiles come up and you start hitting them all the time. It's like that. It's ridiculous. But then what to do? I mean, America's elected him and we have to deal with him for the next 3 years or at least till midterm. So let's see, we have to deal with it. There's one point that you had brought up about the diaspora, and one of the guests had said that, oh, Indian diaspora, we could lose their leverage. But unfortunately, what one has seen in the past month, during this past month about the Indian diaspora is that they have very limited political leverage on foreign trade issues. They might hold influence in US politics in a different aspect, but I don't think so. They have remained largely silent because trade policy, I think, is shaped by the tougher guys, by the institutions in the US dynamics. I don't think that advocacy groups in the Indian diaspora have very little marginal impact as far as decision making is concerned.
Asha, you want to respond to that or add to that? Smita says the Indian diaspora doesn't really have a say when it comes to trade policy. That's taken by the bigger boys.
Absolutely. So the thing is that what the Indian diaspora needs to be, this is a wake-up call even for the Indian diaspora. What the diaspora needs to do is to make sure that we are following the Israeli model, right? Which is that we are making sure that we are there in the right places at the right time and investing in the right candidates. For example, in Lindsey Graham case, right, in the Senator Lindsey Graham, how is it that we have not supported his candidacy? He's running again in 2026. We should all be there writing a small check. And these are small amounts and this is a very transparent system in US, thankfully. There should be at least a dozen people that should be there in buying influence in Washington, D.C., because it's possible to buy influence legally, openly, and transparently. This is what the Indian diaspora should be doing. And we haven't done that, and I think we are paying a price now. Look at the Israelis, right? The Israeli model is, the Jewish model is that the Jewish diaspora will make sure that if any candidate said anything against Israel, it gets punished. Where is our power on that? And I think, thankfully, though, I have a feeling that this is the first time the Indian diaspora is slowly going to wake up. Right now, there is one party there in Washington, D.C. that is playing this game, and that's me. And thankfully, at least the people are watching me right now. But this needs to be at least 200 of us that need to be playing the game in Washington, D.C. We have to be doing this.
Interesting that you accept that the Indian diaspora should be doing a lot more. That is a important piece of clarity, because from the outside there is perhaps a kind of a disproportionate sense of what the diaspora can and cannot do. So that's an important point. In fact, Smita is the editor of ANI, and it was the ANI US correspondent today who asked that question to Trump, which has gone so viral. It's become, in many ways, the face of where things are at right now, and represents what many people see as American hypocrisy and duplicity. Here's an America that is importing these sensitive goods like uranium and palladium, and then, lecturing countries like India as far as importing oil is concerned. Here is that comment where ANI's Reena Bharadwaj asked this question to Trump. Just take a look at what he said.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
India says that the U.S. imports Russian uranium, chemicals, fertilizers, while criticizing their energy imports. Your response to that, sir?
I don't know anything about it. I'd have to check, but we'll get back to you on that.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
India says that the U.S. imports Russian uranium, chemicals, fertilizers, while criticizing their energy imports. Your response to that, sir?
I don't know anything about it. I'd have to check, but we'll get back to you on that.
Okay, I've got enough time to just get final comments from everyone, a few seconds each, if you please. Smita, I'll kick it off with you, since that soundbite from Trump was in response to your reporter's question in Washington. Is there a deal in sight? I know it's going to be difficult to get there, but can we agree that a deal is in sight, and all of what we're seeing right now is just a means towards that?
No, I don't think there is. Right now, at least, it's completely fogged out, and I don't see a deal in sight right now. 50% is a huge thing. It's something that should propel us to work towards a deal. So I'm just, again, hope is not a policy incentive, but then, yeah, hoping that somewhere better sense prevails on both sides.
Okay, it's all fogged out right now. Professor Latham, what do you think?
I think the interests are too powerful. This is not about hope, and it's not about wishes, and it's not about wish casting or anything like that. It's simply that the interests of these two countries geopolitically and ultimately economically align, and they're too powerful. And what we're going through now is a period of turbulence. When that meeting takes place on the 25th of August, which is before the 21-day deadline, I'll bet you there's a deal that gets done. Not everybody will be perfectly happy with it, but it'll be a deal that everybody can live with and that will advance India's interests and the United States' interests.
Ambassador Srivastava, very quickly, do you see any major escalation from this point forward towards a deal that may or may not be ahead?
We should not look for a deal in next 10-15 days. We have to be prepared and rough it out for a few months. But there is some scope where we can make an adjustment without affecting our domestic sector. India was importing Russian crude oil not only for processing and sale in Indian market, but also for making petrochemicals for exports to third countries. Now, why should we invite American Roth for the sake of supplying petrochemicals to European market or US market or African markets? So there's a scope for cutting down our energy imports from Russia, but we must maintain. We cannot allow America to dictate our energy security.
Okay, right now it doesn't look like that's on the table, but fair enough.
But
I quite agree with Ambassador Srivastava. In fact, both of us dealt with Iran when sanctions were there. He was in Tehran and I was in Delhi. We opened escrow